Hello, everybody. My name is Julian Ichim, and I have quite some guests with us today. We have Louisa, who is a social worker from Montreal, and we have Thomas Ichim, who has dedicated his life to fighting cancer. How are you both doing?
Joel, well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss some of the exciting work that you are doing over here in Worell, California.
So, tell us what got you interested in. First, I'm going to ask you, Tom, a question, and then I'm going to ask you, Louisa, a question. So, tell us, Thomas, what got you interested in immunology and fighting cancer and trying to find a cure for cancer?
Well, as you know, we were affected greatly by my mother having been diagnosed with this terrible condition, leukemia, which is a type of blood cancer. And the thinking at a very young age, to remember, Julian, was that the body's always fighting cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And the body's immune system is unique in that it can adapt to the mutations of the cancer undergoes, and it can overcome mutations. You know, the big problem, obviously, in the area of chemotherapy and other rationally designed drug approaches to cancer is that chemotherapy blocks certain pathways. You know, so for example, you have the folate inhibiting types of chemotherapies like different alkaloid-based agents. Now, what happens is when like 5-fluorouracil, when you block the folate pathway, the cancer just uses another pathway. It's just about a different pathway to overcome. The pathway is shut down. The same way the immune system, once it sees that the cancer is mutated, can specifically go and attack the mutations.
Which is something that the drugs aren't doing.
Exactly. That's something that the drugs are not doing. The drugs cannot mutate. The immune system is a living drug, if you will. So that's what attracted us to the field of immunology in general, and specifically to this whole idea of how does the cancer escape the immune system? Because if we figure out how cancer escapes the immune system, then basically we have a way to cure cancer. You know, the importance of escaping the immune system, cancer learns a lot of the tricks from the placenta. The fact that a baby can live aside from mother and is not killed is still a mystery, because the little cells recognize what we call the fetal allograft, if you will. Fetal allograft is a baby. The baby is recognized by the mother. It's recognized by the mother as foreign. Magically, the mother does not kill it. And a lot of the molecules the fetus uses, specifically the placenta, uses to protect itself against the mother, is on the same molecules that the cancer cells use to protect against the immune system. So and it's interesting because some of the immune stimulants, agents that block immune suppression in cancer, are also very potent quote-unquote agents and they induce abortion. As a matter of fact, if you give the abortion pill, 486, cancer carries you actually see a regression of some kinds of cancer. So there's a very interesting dialogue between cancer and pregnancy, and that's one of the areas we're trying to study. But to answer your question, we became interested in immunology because the immune system is what can fight the cancer. It's the only thing we know that can fight against something that mutates.
In that case, why is Big Pharma looking for, let us say, palliative care and not looking for a cure? And now this is a question to Louisa as a community activist. When I was a kid, Thomas went to the Cancer Society and he brought forward these ideas. And they told him straight up, we don't want a cure for cancer. We're making money off this. We don't want a cure. How do you feel, Louisa, when you hear that, like, this genius who has, like, a high IQ comes and says, I have a way to fight cancer, and you're like, and then the Cancer Society's like, nah, we don't want a cure for cancer. How does that make you feel?
There's like different stages of grieving, that are well known, and I think as an activist, you're just constantly in a state of some more or less grief of like the ending suffering and improving human experience, like a collective human experience, is not high on the priority list, because we can see it in other policies of how like certain people are denied access to healthcare. You can see it in many different ways. So unfortunately, I'm not surprised. I wish I was, but I'm not surprised. And I hope one day I'll live in a society where that kind of thing is surprising. It just makes me mad. Sometimes it makes me sad. We have the most amazing technology, and we're not putting it to helping people. There is history. One thing that people need to understand is that there are people that don't care about humans. So there's humans that don't care about the collective. They go against their biological instinct to protect the species. We all have that. Some people have been programmed for whatever reason to not have that. So there are people with very malicious intentions. And when you look back to Nazi Germany, there's some of the experiments that were done on the victims of Nazi Germany, including not just the Jews. There was there was the Holocaust, but there was also Roma people, there was handicapped people, there was gay people, there was communists. All of them were experimented on, and actually some of them ended up getting into the doing experiments on their prisoners, and then end up like running pharmaceutical companies. So if you see that they never really let go of those ideas, you can kind of understand how that could be possible. But if you don't understand the history behind big and multinational pharmaceutical companies, then you won't understand that is actually a possibility, that the people at the top don't have people's health in mind.
Okay, so I want to go back to Tom, and I'm going to go bring up something personal about you, Louisa. You recently lost a friend to cancer, and you've tried to reach out to Thomas to find a way to help this, and due to borders, due to big pharma, due to the bureaucracy, you weren't able to reach Tom in time, and your friend did die. How did that make you feel, knowing that this bureaucracy...
I think that she was literally killed by the system. It's hard for me to see it any other way. Like, she wasn't able to regularize her status because she was in a situation of domestic violence. Okay, so she's a victim. There's no services for, victims of domestic violence. Okay, and then on top of that, immigration doesn't care. They made it so she was living basically kind of like a seventh slave, like. And then they wouldn't treat her for cancer. And then they said you have to have $1 billion, right? And then this contract. And then she said, "But wait, do I have to do chemo?" Because she was very smart. So she said, "Can I do other treatments?" And they said, "No. If you want healthcare, then you have to do it our way. You have to take the chemo, and you have to pay for it."
Now I'm going to interrupt you. I know that's really rude, but Tom, what do you think about that? That they told her friend that they couldn't use your things, that if she wanted cancer treatment, they had to do chemo. What do you think their logic behind that was? And can you see something coming out of a society where like the thing I love about you, Tom, is you're a fucking capitalist, but you put science first. You put humans first, right? In a society where science is not governed by science, but science is governed by progress. Like, how does this all fit in?
Well, no, first of all, what I say, Louisa, my condolences. It's a very sad situation. And it's one of those situations where, over here in the US, we have these situations where the insurance companies, in many cases, dictate the treatment that people get. And they handcuff the doctors. They handcuff the doctors, figuratively speaking, but sometimes even literally. Doctors who have innovative ideas or innovative treatments cannot practice, in many cases, what they want because of the insurance companies. And this corporate medicine, nothing good comes out of different treatments without knowing the specific situation of the patient. There's situations in which chemotherapy can be very good if you have a big tumor, about to do a surgery, you need to debug the tumor. The type of good use of chemotherapy, there's good use of chemotherapy. After surgery, you take to remove leftover circulating tumor cells and things like that. But there's also situations where the cure is what's on the disease, where the chemotherapy actually accelerates cancer. So to answer your question, I think it's very sad that the system would allow somebody who already has this emotional trauma of domestic violence, and instead of trying to work with the patient, have the patient as a partner in developing a treatment, well, the system's antagonistic. And there are many studies showing that situations of various emotional or physical trauma can not only initiate a cancer, but also help accelerate tumors. So there's one of the very interesting experiments, well-known published experiment, is that you take two groups of mice. One group of mice, you leave them in a cage. The other group of mice, every 2 hours, you take them outside of the cage and you spin them randomly every 2 hours. You spin them by the tail for 15 seconds every 2 hours, but at random time periods every 2 hours. You will check both of them mice with cancer. The ones that have an emotional stress of being spun, they die about twice as fast. So there's definitely a negative impact of stress and a fear on cancer growth. So when you combine that with the doctor, instead of the doctor being a partner, the doctor's maybe saying you need to take this, it's a very, very bad situation. And you know, sometimes these situations are made because people have certain protocols that are consistent. And you understand the need for consistency when you're being wireless in an assembly line, when you're being computers. But the problem is, it's not a problem. In fact, in medicine, not everybody's the same. And when you take a standardized approach to everybody, that's where you have different troubles. And I think the good news is, for us as a society, we've got to move towards personalized medicine. And what I mean by that is, if you take cancer, if you take somebody with lung cancer, if you look at 100 people with lung cancer, you look under the microscope, those lung cancer, so 100 different people are going to look the same, more or less the same. In fact, I was at the same stage. But if you look at 100 people with stage 4 metastatic lung cancer, those lung cancers are going to look the same. However, if you take one type of chemotherapy, let's say gemcitabine, and you give it to the 100 lung cancers, about 60% will respond, the other 40 will not. The other 40 can respond to an alkylating agent, the other 10 may respond to something like fluorouracil and so on. The point is, everybody responds, every cancer responds differently. When they got cancer medicines approved, they tried them against all sorts of cancers. I mean, the same type of cancer, but they did not appreciate that even though cancers might look the same, they respond differently. So there's more and more push right now to doing personalized medicine, where you take the cancer ahead of giving the chemo, in a small biopsy, you see which drugs it's sensitive to, and then you start using those as chemo. So I think as a society moves forward, we're going to see more and more personalized treatments.
But how can we see this with Big Pharma? Earlier, when we were doing our practice run, you were telling me about like Big Pharma's black ops and stuff. Tell us a little. How can we see something positive as long as Big Pharma holds the hand?
Well, that's when it becomes the interest for progress that only gets made at a large scale. Progress gets made only with the big pharma investment. And it's sad. On a small scale, people with money have access to specialized doctors who do customized solutions. we were talking about the big pharma before, Julian. We were talking about how the first immunotherapy was called Paulie's vaccine. It was a physician, and interestingly enough, the physician was a physician at Rockefeller. And you actually knew Rockefeller, being industrialist. And the physician, he had a patient who had a soft tissue sarcoma who wanted to raise in remission. Basically got cured. What happened was the patient got sick with a special type of bacterial infection. But the physician started growing up this bacteria and giving it to other people, initially with soft tissue sarcoma, and then giving it to other cancer patients. 30 to 40% response rate, which is unheard of for this kind of cancer. And what happened was, he went to the FDA, he got FDA clearance. This drug, Paulie's toxin, immunotherapy, was actually approved by the FDA on the Federal Register. And then it was taken off because of pressure from various pharma companies who started making chemotherapy. I didn't get a chance to tell you the whole story with it, so that was a very interesting story because what happened was the drug fell into obscurity. After the 1940s, they made the American Cancer Society's list of unproven medicines. Basically, they call them quack medicines. But Paulie's grandmother, Helen Potts, she continued pushing her father's, her grandfather's work. And he went to Lloyd Worell. Lloyd Worell was at that time a Rockefeller. Lloyd Worell started investigating. He made what's called the Cancer Research Institute, which is still around today. Very good Cancer Research Institute. And he discovered the molecular mechanism of the Paulie toxin, how it actually worked, is it would stimulate the production of a protein. That protein, you might guess its name, is called tumor necrosis factor. Necrosis meaning death. When they purified this protein, and they would inject it in mice, the tumors, big, visible tumors, the tumors would liquefy.
But that's not in the interest of Big Pharma. They'd rather have something palliative than a cure.
No, we'll get to that story in a second, but the point was, this is what also makes the biology of the scary difficult. TNF-alpha makes tumors liquefy. When we put it on people, it kills the people. And because the most tumors are qualitatively different than human tumors. Because mice live only about 2 years, humans live about 70 to 100 years. Lots of differences. But I think the TNF is a factor in which kind of qualities. There's few exceptions. I mean, there's a group of friends of mine down here, one of that is still giving qualities even from today. There's a friend of mine in Canada, Don McCann or Robert Hamilton, who was giving qualities. But the point is, the original qualities were suppressed by Big Pharma. Years. Immunotherapy has appealed until the realization that there was money to be made from it. So there was even a pharmaceutical company called Paulie's Pharma in the 1980s, early 2000s. They identified some of the mechanisms called Pauline receptor 9. So there's an interaction between science and corporations, and the interest of the corporation obviously is the generator for the shareholders. So there's always a conflict in here of conflict of interest. But there's also another point. The corporations have to raise money. To raise money, the investors need guidance. People who invest usually are not just biotech people that invest in biotech. And otherwise we have no industry. The people who are not in biotech really have no clue that we're biotech investment opportunity from another one. But what happens is, there are a lot of bankers, investment bankers and analysts. The best story, I can't believe the media did not make people fuss about it, was when Gilead came up with a various drug treatment for hepatitis C that cures a large majority of people. Hepatitis used to be treated as a chronic illness, gives rise to cancer, failure, and as violent. When Julian came up with the cure, first of all, it cured cancer signals. The other companies work on hepatitis, all of a sudden, the disease is cured. And the most likely was an analyst from Goldman Sachs that had the goal to write the the analysis report to criticize Gilead for why they would give a cure and kill off a consistent revenue source. And that just gives you an idea of the state of the industry and how demented. I mean, I guess we all understand the reason.
1 second. Louisa, how does that make you feel? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, she can't hear me. I just wanted to know how she would. Yeah. How do you feel to hear that the bankers, it's Goldman Sachs, has the gonads to go out there and yell at this guy who cured Hep C? How dare you cure Hep C? How does that make you feel?
Just angry, and it kind of just confirms that, like, only the people can save the people. So it's kind of just like people have to help each other out, and we really can't be relying on people who, you have to look at what people do and not what people say. So it doesn't really matter if the head of the Rockefeller says that they care or that it's safe or really whatever, that this is the best treatment you can get. What you have to look at is like the evidence. You have to look at the actions that people take. Where do they invest their money? Do they try to, what information is being propagated, what isn't? So all those, you have to look beyond just words, so that confirms that belief, and otherwise it's just completely enraging. It's completely unfair.
I gotta cut you off here just because we have 10 minutes left, and there's an amazing thing that Tom came up with. Suicide has been a very big issue in our community. Since I was in the hospital in April until now, 24 people have taken their lives either on purpose or through mega doses of drugs, being like, I don't care. We know that the brain from trauma changes. You were telling us, Tom, about this medicine that rechanges the brain to deal with the suicide factor. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, the first step of exploration in this was identifying, looking at the literature, identifying who had factors predisposed to suicide and any types of common elements within these factors. So, for example, if you look at schizophrenia, predisposed to suicide, alcoholism, heavy cocaine addiction, all of them seem to have some level of association with different proteins that stimulate astrocyte activation, astrocyte type of cell, and the brain, basically inflammation, brain inflammation. So a lot of the things that's associated with suicide are associated with stimulation of brain inflammation. One of the blood needs stress. What we can see in the blood, if these levels of molecules associated with suicide are high. And we tested this test, if you will. We did a trial of 30 patients. 10 people, healthy, aged, active volunteers with no family history of suicide, or personal history of suicide, or ideations of suicide. The next 10 people in the group were people who, on the Hamilton-Ashland scale, had certain level of suicidal ideation. Several suicidal ideation thoughts that were intrusive thoughts that would come to their minds. There's a next 10 group of people with suicidal ideations and had actually tried to commit some level of suicide. We noticed that 3-4 days between the healthy volunteers and the suicidal ideation group, and another 3-4 days between the suicidal ideation and attempted suicide. So we developed a blood-based marker, we started seeing if we can alter the marker, and also alter the amount of suicidal ideations. Chemicals with natural-based products modulate the inflammatory process. As we've seen in some of the experiments, we've seen something as simple as the drug. Something as simple as the drug recycling, which is an FDA-approved antibiotic, reduced to some extent suicidal ideation. It's very interesting because lots of people respond differently, but it is. And the level of reducing suicidal makeup of a mind that's suicide prone. We have a multi-step approach. Whereas the lowest level approach is using things like tetracycline, fish oils, different nutraceutical interactions. At the higher level, we have autologous from your body, autologous-based approaches where we use things such as inhaled plasma and administer it nasally with some potent antioxidants. And then at the highest level is administration of different regenerative cells. So we are working on these approaches right now, but it's very interesting because right now there really is what's inside of the biggest quote-unquote treatment is the use of psychedelics. And, what are your thoughts, Louisa, on this? I mean, is that a thing up there in Canada? The use of psychedelics and ketamine to prevent suicidal thoughts?
My understanding is it's finally getting, there's been people talking about this for several years, but it's finally kind of breaking into the mainstream. And as soon as it breaks into the mainstream, it's going to be regulated, which has good and negative things. But I think the idea is our society is based on exploitation, fundamentally. So we can expect a certain level of trauma depending on everyone's life. And I think it's very important for our mental health to find ways to cope that are safe, right? So a lot of people cope in a lot of different ways, and that's what's really interesting about what you just said. In terms of the psychedelics, I know that is a new area of study. I know that there are people that are using it, but it hasn't come into like the university curriculum, let's say, for psychology yet, or psychiatry. But I know that it's on its way.
I volunteered for a test once in Montreal to take LSD to deal with some of my depression. Basically, me and some people went to a hotel room. It was a very positive environment. I even think Louisa visited me there in Chinatown. And honestly, it kind of rewired the way I see things. And I'm not really a drug user, except for the drugs that are given to me by the doctors. Like all the drugs I'm on right now, Dilaudid, whatever, are prescribed, except for cigarettes. Of course, I know about ibogaine. Ibogaine has been used successfully in many cases in treating heroin addiction, as well as treating various sorts of mental health issues, suicidal thoughts, and all sorts of things. It's mostly in Latin America where you can actually get the real ibogaine, but I've never had a chance to get in a study on. It's it's a psychedelic that grows naturally. Yeah, it's ayahuasca. Yeah, it's the same thing. Ayahuasca. Ibogaine is the active ingredient in ayahuasca. No, not really, because ayahuasca isn't really addictive, right? Most psychedelics aren't addictive. Like, for example, if you take opiates when you don't have opiates, you have physically addictive. But on the other hand, you can't walk your life puking for 7 days every day of the week, hallucinating. Like, there's very that's a whole different discussion, and we only have 3 minutes left. So, what are your final thoughts, Thomas and Louise? I'll give you each a minute and a half.
You can go
I'll
first,
go
Louisa.
first, but I'd like to hear Thomas. I'd like to hear Thomas first. Is that okay?
Although, my thoughts is, I want to thank you, Julian, for this opportunity. Share a little bit about the work that we're doing. I think that I'm very thankful for the shareholders that support the work and the people that invested in my companies and in my vision. And, what I would say to people, we don't come to where I'm making money. Biotech is the riskiest form of investment. What we can promise is that we're going to do good science, and even if our experiments do not work the way we want them to work, other people look at our experiments and they take them to the next level. It's like Isaac Newton said, if, as Newton said, if I see more than other people have seen, it's because I stand on the shoulders of geniuses. So we try to stand on the shoulders of the people before us, and we want other people to stand on our shoulders, and we'll start a scientific process. And so yeah, I just want to thank you, Louisa, for this opportunity.
Okay, right before Louisa finishes up, I would like to say that I was talking to some of the lads in Ireland. They were looking into you, and they're like, you try to treat the cancer of the body, and I try to treat the cancer of the soul. And in each way, we're both maverick geniuses. Although I'm more likely to get shot, but after what you've been telling me earlier about Big Pharma's assassination, I'm not too sure if you won't get shot.
That's a very nice note to end on, Julian.
Okay.
I just want to remind everyone that you have to keep whoever is around you that you trust that has your best intentions at heart. Keep them close. Advocate for yourself. Find good doctors like Thomas Nicholson here. Find people that have your back. Stick together. Work through conflict and fight for your rights for health, because no one is going to give that to you. So that would be the last thing that I would like to say for anyone that's listening. You gotta find the good doctors. Don't give up. Keep on fighting. Find your people that's going to have your back, and just keep on going.
And thanks everyone for participating, and thank you for letting me bring up a personal issue in your life, Louisa, that hasn't really been that long ago.
It's okay. I'm happy that her memory will serve to make the world a better place, and I know that she would like that.
Okay, I'm going to start editing this now. Thank you everyone for participating.